Hi there, it's John here from itsmorethanjustgaming.com and welcome. Today I'm going to be having a peek inside the box of Dreamwars, a recent Kickstarter. I didn't actually back this one, my friend got it from, my game store, which actually backed and had one copy, and my friend bought it on Saturday and kindly loaned it to me to do an unboxing, and there will also be a how to play video. This was a Kickstarter I was actually going to back, admittedly, because it looked awesome. Unfortunately, at the time I couldn't quite afford it, so I had to cancel my my pledge, which is a shame because actually having read the rules, and I have read the rules, so that this unboxing is going to be a bit of an unboxing and a card anatomy, so that when we get to the how to play video we can actually just go through the gameplay mechanics already understanding the cards. Dreamwars is a sort of like a steampunk fantasy game. That's the front of the box. You're not seeing an awful lot there, other than some cogs. On the back, you've got, I will read out the back in just a second. You're going to struggle to see that, I suspect. But don't worry, because as ever there's going to be a link in the description to an accompanying blog article which has photographs of static images, front of the box, back of the box, the board and various cards, so that you can actually get a good look at what you're getting. I'm just going to read out what's on the back and describe it a little bit. You've got a sort of like a clock tower that looks a little bit like a sort of fantasy Big Ben almost. Which is in London if you're not from the UK, and Big Ben's the big clock tower above the Houses of Parliament, if you didn't know that. Okay, Dreamwars. Hafen, year 1858 of the Second Foundation. The technological development that mankind is experiencing thanks to the mysterious Dreamstones gave birth to a new era of extraordinary progress. New weapons, devices and automata rapidly change the lives of those who live in the great city. However, terrifying beings await in the dark recesses of the ever-changing world of Elan, while their inhuman masters plan on the fall of the free peoples. Interestingly enough, on my blog there will shortly be a few posts about automata, because I do post about creative writing as well. Automata is quite an interesting subject. 8 heroes, the frontier of a dangerous world, a unique atmosphere with a steampunk horror theme. These are the traits that Dreamwars draws from the classics of literature, while also adding a unique and rich setting, a simple set of rules and dozens of captivating scenarios that provide the game with an outstanding replay value. Each adventure in Dreamwars is called an Ordeal. These are modular and multi-branched narrative campaigns, each telling a unique story that the players are called to unfold. Ordeals are divided into scenarios, making it possible to suspend and resume the game easily. Beating or failing each scenario determines how the story continues. There is no actually losing a game of Dreamwars. The game is essentially made of 3 components: narrative campaigns, fierce fights against nightmarish creatures, and mysterious discoveries are waiting to be made. The unique unlockable abilities, crazy equipment cards, and the wide variety of allies and mercenaries allow you to shape and play your hero the way you want. The world of Dreamwars is waiting for you, just be careful what you wish for. Cooperative game for 1 to 8 players, and there's a whole other list of details about the game. So, like I say, this will be an unboxing and card anatomy, and there will be a separate video for how to play the game itself, and both will link back to a blog that has static images. So, let's actually have a look inside the box. So here we have the rulebook. The cover art is the same as the game box cover, so cogs and gears to indicate the steampunk nature of the game. The rulebook is actually quite short. It's 24 pages, which by my standards is actually fairly short. There's quite a lot in those pages, I have to say. However, they have nice pictures at the beginning of all the components, which is important as far as I'm concerned, because it then lets you know exactly what you're looking for when it's describing something, as well as a component list. I would say there are a handful of misprints, but nothing serious. You can get what the gist is, and there are a few ordering issues that some things are in an illogical order, but if you actually stick with the rules right to the end, it does make sense eventually. If you have the rule book there and you're reading it all the way through, everything will eventually make sense. Sometimes jump ahead to, there's a miscellany section at the end, which is a sort of appendix, and it has lots of useful information in it. And if you have the game board handy, which happily is what we have next, and we're going to look at just now. That helps too. So let's unfold the game board. It's quite a big one, in fact. Ooh! Just move that box out of the way. Can't see all of that, I'm aware. Let's zoom out a bit. Oh, I always do that. So we have quite a big game board, as you can see. Very pretty game board, in fact. Has two major towns, Falkenberg and Halfen. And you've got lots of game locations, like there's Serpent Rock here, Circle of the Four Winds, the Hidden Pit. Although why the Hidden Pit is on the map, it's not very hidden. There's a labyrinth here, an arcane portal. And each of these locations has a symbol on it to represent the adventure card that you play there at the end of your turn. So for instance, this Forgotten Forge has a wilderness adventure card, whereas if you're in the Falkenberg, which is inside the walls, each of these locations has a town intrigue adventure card. Other locations have other things as well. So for instance, the Tinker's Junkyard is somewhere that you can trade for technology cards. And the Circle of the Four Winds looks like it's a spawning portal for one of the different factions of villains. You also have a turn counter at the bottom for some of the scenarios that require you to keep track of turns. So it's a very pretty board, very detailed. All the spaces are easily marked so that you can actually track your character's movement. Okay, so there's a lot of card in this, not as much as Gloomhaven, I have to say, but still a fair amount. So let's look at this. I'll come back to what's in the box shortly. Ooh. So we've got blood tokens to represent health. Cannons, I guess they're going to, the rules for them or the details for them is going to be in the Ordeals book, which I just saw a moment ago, because I certainly haven't encountered them in the rules yet, and I thought I had read the full book. And these are the sort of monster tokens for the different hordes of monsters. There's 3 different hordes of monsters depending on which Great Nemesis you actually are fighting. I think there are 9 Great Nemesis in total, and they're split into 3 factions. The cards have a defense value, a health value, and a movement value. The defense value, basically, whenever a monster attacks you, you have to roll defense, and the defense value, which is the number on the shield, is the number you have to roll lower than in order to pass. It's the same for any skill check in this game. You will be told the number of the skill check you have to pass, and you have to roll lower than it. So this Tinkling Stinger has defense value 3, so you need to roll 3 or lower. And that you've got Voice of Hakeron, defense value 2, you have to roll a 2 or lower. A 1 always succeeds, a 6 always fails, and there are modifiers in the game, and if the modifier takes it down to a 0, then you can't make the check. Okay, these monster tokens also have special rules on the back. So I'm going to lift this, actually I'm going to bring them up a little bit closer so that I can go through that again. So let's go to the Voice of Hakeron again. Defense value 2 there, so 2 or fewer. 5 hit points, and it moves 3. There's a Soulless Hound, defense value 4, so 4 or lower, so a bit easier to fight, to defend against. 1 hit point, so you only need to score 1 damage on it, but it moves fast, it's 6. So let's actually have a look on, oh, whoops. Not looking to actually pop them out yet. Let's see. And this is the back of the Soulless Hound. It's got a little bit of flavour text. This symbol represents which horde it's from, and it's got the fast trait, which means it's got double the movement, but that's already accounted for in the movement it's already got. Let's see what we've got. On the next one, we've got more monsters. This looks like one of the... Each faction has a Colossus monster, which I think is this one. There is a train token for different movements types. when you actually, I guess there are event cards that allow you to access the terrain. There is a moon token. The crescent moon just represents player 1 on any given turn. I think I'm not sure what these potions are. Let's actually see what we can find, because I don't recall encountering what these are. So let's see what we've got. Apologies for the delay. Okay, these question marks are the unknown tokens, so they'll be objectives, and most of them are empty, and one of them has a Dreamstone shard on it, which is cool. These are death and supply tokens, apparently. Again, I don't remember encountering them in the rulebook, but we'll move on. This is again more monsters, and more health tokens and cannons. They reverse the cannons as siege towers, incidentally. We have the watch token. The watch token is how you track how many turns into the game is. Hang on, I'll lift this up. When one of your ordeals or one of the scenarios says you need to complete it by turn X, at the beginning of each new turn, you move the watch token along the track 1. There are carriages. These are for special movement as well. There's some more unknowns. And these, hang on, I did see these and I just can't remember what they are. They're hero status tokens. They're used to keep track of heroes' current life points and the progress on any of their prestige abilities. Heroes have special abilities that they unlock in each game by doing certain tasks in that game. So you would just sort of put a token on to represent. If you need to do something 3 times, 3 tokens means, yeah, you've done it. 2 tokens, you're not quite there yet. You've got the Colossal Testudo. I always thought that was a tortoise. Because Testudo is the Roman tortoise formation, if I recall. Or actually, maybe it's spelt just a little bit differently. That looks more like a spiky thing. Still looks pretty cool. That will be one of the Colossus enemies. And then on the last one, oh, I like this one, the Nightborn Titan. That's cool. And you've got all these cool other monsters: gladiators, enslaved, legionaries, and you've got more carriages. Can you see them? Okay. And let's have a look at what else is in the box. So this here is the Ordeals book, which is the equivalent of the campaign book. I've had a quick look at the introduction in it and at the first ordeal. There's no secrets in it because it's players versus a game. The players are entitled to know everything on each ordeal page as they get to it. It confirms that each ordeal basically is chosen as a result of which boss you're fighting, which Grand Nemesis, and it directs you to which part of the Ordeal book. So let's actually I'll go to that in just a second. So there's a how to use, and it gives you ordeal structures. So each ordeal is broken down into 3 parts, and it's branching. So actually, yeah, get this on camera just now for you. You got the scenario 1, and depending on success or failure, you will go left or right on the branch, and then you take scenario 2. And again, depending on success or failure, there is 4 possible final chapters that you could end up playing in, which is quite interesting. At the end of each chapter, I made a mistake earlier in the video and said that you had to unlock the prestige things in each game. No, you keep the progress of each unlocked ability as you progress through the ordeal. You also get to keep the items at the end of the ordeal as well. You don't reset back to your player starting amount. So that's quite cool. There's not much in the way of pictures for the ordeals. It also actually, although I'll come to that, it tells a lot of the factors are dependent on the number of players. So the boss's health, the number of turns, things like that. You've got special tokens and markers for unknowns, so that you might get more dream shards. They're supplying death tokens to track certain things in the game. Obviously, we saw the train and the carriage and the cannon and the siege tower earlier. Some of these actually happen in various ordeals. And this here is the first page of the first ordeal of the first chapter of the first ordeal, if you're using the Lord Caesar of the Ekathon faction. So you don't actually have a map set out, it just tells you, it gives you some victory conditions and fail conditions within a turn limit, and a little bit of flavour and setup where you can start, and what's the limit to the number of Nemesis creatures you can have on the board. So that's fairly straightforward, actually. So the rest of the contents of the box, actually, compared to some games I've seen, you're not being laden down with hundreds and hundreds of components, which actually is going to be quite appealing to some people, because actually a lot of games have too many decks of cards, too many tokens, too many this, too many that, and it becomes a nightmare to track. So actually, they might just have got the balance right here, because it still looks like there's a lot to be going on with. Bearing in mind, actually, when my friend bought this from the shop, they got a Kickstarter exclusive as well with it, which I think is this pack of hero cards here and this pack of hero miniatures. I think the rest of it was, and probably this token actually, but the rest of it I think is actually from the core set. You have this set here is the main cards for the main Nemesis. You then have hero cards. I'll go through each of these individually for a sort of like a card anatomy shortly. You have events decks that actually have got several events decks here, 3 in fact, over multiple packs. Each symbol represents a different Nemesis class. We have, this is the Dream Shard deck, which is a form of equipment deck. This is got Dream Shard on the top, but also on the bottom it's got Halberd, so this has got the standard common items, probably the spells, and the tech items as well. But we'll confirm that just shortly. We have a deck of City Intrigues, so anytime your character ends their turn on a square that has this symbol on it, you'll be turning over one of these, unless you've done a trade action. And we have the Outland Mysteries. Anytime a character ends their turn with one of these, on a space with one of these symbols, you turn over one of these cards and resolve the other side of it. But like I say, we will actually go through each card individually in a little bit more detail. So first of all, let's have a look at the Great Nemesis. Each Great Nemesis triggers their own ordeal, and this is a Great Nemesis card. This is for Mitrak, Mistress, Dominatrix. We're also going to look at the event cards on this clip, this part of the video, because they relate directly to the Great Nemesis. So you've got a picture of the Great Nemesis, which is quite cool. You've got her special rules. The Lady of Chains here. All will breakers in play have the range of the range attacks increased to 3, which means if they have range attacks it goes up to range 3, which is cool. And once you actually reach the limit of monsters on the board, all defense tests suffer a -1 modifier. So basically that sounds like the frenzy. Once they get to a critical mass, all the monsters on the board are going to frenzy. Also, you have the symbol for her faction, which in this case looks basically like a chain, and you would have events that have you would have a deck of events cards that have the chain symbol on it. Now, at the beginning of every turn, you reveal an event card, and you would resolve it. And at the bottom of each event card there is a celestial symbol, and the events cards, you resolve them, and their effect might persist for so long as they are on the board, or their effect might only be 1 turn, but regardless the card stays on the board for 3 turns, and the reason for that is when you have 3 event cards out, you have a celestial formation, so Moon, Sun, Sun. And if you get Moon, Sun, Sun, you trigger this particular ability of the oh, sorry, that's Moon, Star, Star. Sun is something else entirely. I'm guessing that's Moon, Star, Star. When you have this configuration, if that configuration matches any of the celestial things at the bottom of the Great Nemesis, you would trigger that ability. If there are no will breakers in place, summon one. It replaces the first Nemesis summoned in this turn. At the end of, say this came out on turn 1, and it's now turn 4 starts, and we actually need to put out a new card from the events deck. So we get the events deck. We take the next card, which is a sun. We move this one off and move this one along. This goes into a discard pile. We resolve this one, worthy opponent, and then we check the configuration. It doesn't match, so no special abilities. But this adds a random element to the game based on the configuration of stars, which is kind of cool, I think. Okay, so like I said, I'm not going to go through all of the Nemesis cards. I will put a couple of photographs up on the blog, but I'm not going to do photographs of everything, and I'm not going to go through everything on the box. This is just so you can get an idea of the sort of stuff in here. I'm going to do the same for the player cards. I've got 2 of them out just now, Max the Sentinel and Melanie West the Lady. I'll just go through their card anatomies. I will focus in on Max first of all. Got it right this time. So, yep, you can see that. So there are a number of traits here. This is Max's might, so whenever he's doing a strength or a melee attack, he needs to roll a 3 or less. So that's quite good. However, his skill, he doesn't notice things because he's an automaton. He needs a 1, basically. His technology skill is 4. He's very good at technology because he's an automaton, and he is an automaton fighter mechanic, basically, is what he is labelled as. He has the Cantico rating of 0. He cannot have Cantico, which is the equivalent of spells in this. He has a movement value of 2, and he has a health value of 5. He starts off with 0 common items and 4 tech items. They're drawn at random from the equivalent decks, and he can have a maximum of 8 items. He starts off with 2 dream shards. There is no upper limit to the amount of dream shards you can have, and he starts with 0 Cantico, and his maximum is 0. And he has 3 prestige abilities, so let's actually zoom in on one of those a little bit more closely. High efficiency protocols. You must use 3 different non-weapon tech items, and by doing that you can't move, but you can perform an extra action of any kind, and that's persistent. The next one, you have less than 5 life points left. So you basically just need, for advanced self-repairing, you just need to be wounded. Discard an item to test your defense. And I'm not sure which the defense rating is, because normally defense is given on the card of the thing attacking you. Not sure about that. Testing your dodge is your speed, basically. I really don't. I guess that must happen during combat, so instead of it adds to his defense value. It's a +1 bonus if you discard an item to give you a +1 bonus on your defense when defending, but that doesn't sound to me like repairing so much as it's a it's okay, fair enough. And the last one he's got is maximum steam pressure. possess more than 2 dream shards. You start with 2. Discard a dream shard to gain an extra movement. And those are both rechargeable, those last 2. So basically, anytime you discard an item, anytime you discard a dream shard. So that's quite cool. Let's actually now zoom out to Melanie West to have a look at her card. She is a human cantor, so not an automaton, fighter or mechanic. Her melee is 2, her skill is 3, so she's not very good at hand-to-hand, but she's much better than Max at noticing things. Her tech skill is 0. However, she has a cantor skill of 3, which means when she needs to test her cantor or canti, I can't remember the different words for it, she's got a 50-50 chance, actually. Her movement is 3, she has 3 hit points, she's your basic spellcaster. She starts with 3 common items and can carry 4. She starts with 3 dream shards, and again can carry as many as she wants. She starts with 3 cantos, and she has a max cantor, canti, something like that, and has a maximum of 6. I apologise for my inconsistency in what I'm calling them. I only just read the rules today once. So let's have a look at her prestige abilities. Okay, a lady knows what is proper. You must have tried to intone at least 3 cantici. You can and that unlocks the ability. You can discard a cantico to test your arcane instead of your melee or skill. Okay, so that's quite useful. You can use the arcane is the sort of like what I said. It was the cantor skill. That's the arcane, in fact. I don't see any particular advantage in currently using arcane over skill because they're the same, but arcane is certainly better than melee. Let's move on to the next one. The knowledge of the few. Both the heroes involved must have unlocked at least 1 prestige ability. Test your arcane to exchange a cantico with another hero player. So basically, if you've unlocked one of the abilities and another player who is a cantor has unlocked ability, Melanie can swap spells with them, which is quite interesting and possibly quite useful. You cannot buy class. You must resolve at least 3 city intrigues. When you've done that, when you intone a cantico with a natural 1 roll, you can keep it and discard another cantico you have instead static. Normally when you cast spells you have to discard them, so that's actually allows you to discard something that's perhaps less useful, so that's actually quite a cool little skill for her to have. That's pretty cool, that's pretty awesome in fact. Oh, zooming in again when I should have been zooming out. So that's Melanie West, the lady. We'll just have one last look at her card, and then let's zoom out and get both of them in shot again, just briefly. So that's 2 of the characters, and it looks like there's about 8 in the starting set, so that's cool. Okay, so there are 4 item decks, equipment decks, for want of better terms, because they're not all equipment. There's the common items, the Cantiki, or Cantisi, I can't pronounce it, tech items, and dream shards. Different characters start with different amounts of these, and these can all be traded for, I think, in different locations. Certainly common items and tech items and Cantiki are, I'd need to recheck the rules for dream shards where you can acquire them. But let's actually have a look at a common item first of all. It is a longsword. It is steam powered and it adds 1 to your melee skill, which is cool. There's another one, a sacred amulet, which is a tool. Tools don't require actions to use. Whenever you draw a card from the city investigation deck, I think that should be the City Intrigue deck. That's a misprint, I'm pretty sure. You may decide not to resolve it, discard it, and draw another one instead. If you decide to do so, you must immediately resolve the second one. Okay, so that's possibly useful. Possibly things could go really bad for you doing that. Let's have a look at another one. The Evaran Cloak, and that's another tool. You can move 1 space in any direction after the Nemesis phase. You automatically pass every dodge test during this movement. Okay. That's quite useful, particularly if you Nemesis just moved in to try and ambush you next turn or something like that. Let's look at the Kantiki. I'm going to call them Kantiki. This is the Song of Rebellion. Choose a hero and play who may be your own Cantor. The hero inverts his melee and skill characteristic values. Normally you have to do a sort of like an arcane check. The effect lasts to actually do the spell. The effect lasts until the end of your hero phase. I'm pretty sure you need to do an arcane check. Let's just double check that. So yeah, I'm back. Yes, anytime you want to cast a Cantico or Kantiki, you need to do an arcane check, which makes sense. And this one's Ethereal Cage, a Nemesis in play of your choice. Can't move or nor attack during the Nemesis phase. The effect lasts until you intone another Cantico, so that's quite handy. Some types of Nemesis, like Leaders and Colossus, ignore effects like that, but you can basically lock down a big one. Let's have a look at the tech item. First one is an Enhancing Visor, which is a tool, and that's +1 to your skill. Let's see. Oh, nice. A Repeater Gun. Ranged, range 2. Prevent an extra range attack if you hit with a previous one. Max 3 attacks per turn. Okay, that's cool. That you would need to do a tech challenge for, because it's a tech-based weapon. You would do a tech challenge for. You've got range 2, and if you hit with the previous attack, you can fire again. So that's a really awesome weapon. And that one's in the wrong deck. That one was Kantiki. Okay, this one is the Gear Raven. You can give one of your non-encumbering items to another hero anywhere on the map. Okay, I guess that's quite useful. You'd probably have to do a tech challenge, a tech for that, or maybe it's just free. I'd need to look up tools again. There were special rules for tools. Okay, just looked it up. It just says, tools. This special type of items represent the many useful objects an adventurer may find during his journey. Each tool works in its unique way, which is described on each card. Using a tool doesn't require a hero to spend any of his actions, and there is no limit to the number of tools a hero may use in a single turn. Since doing tests are actions, I guess that means using the bird to transport one of your items to someone else doesn't cost you, and you don't need to test, so that's quite cool. Let's have a look at the Dream Shards. Oops. Winding Shard. Use this shard anytime during your hero's phase. You're allowed an extra movement. There are special rules for extra movements and things like that. Let's have a look at the other. And shards are used to fuel certain other things as well in this game. The Blood Shard. Use this shard anytime during your hero's phase. Inflict 1 life point to a nemesis anywhere on the map. This counts as an arcane attack. I don't like the fact they call damage just life points. They just inflict 1 life point on the nemesis. But that's the writing they've chosen. That's the description they've gone with. I don't particularly like it. It sounds a little bit daft to me, but there you are. So that's the different items and spells that you can use during the game. Just a quick look at them. Finally, for the cards, we have the Outland Mysteries and the City Intrigues. These are sort of like mini adventures or challenges or encounters that you come across when you go into certain locations. Let's look at 1 or 2 of them. This one is an Outland Mystery, a strange man. You wake up abruptly in the middle of the night. A strange man with a likeable face is staring at you from the edge of your campfire's light. His expression shows pacific and benevolent nature, but your instinct tells you a different story. The thing in front of you is treacherous and very dangerous, and it is not a man. Test your fate 3. Testing your fate is basically, it's a stat that's not on your card. You are given the fate value there, so it's 3 or less that you need. Sorry, 3 or fewer. If you succeed, the creature leaves something for you on the ground and disappears in the shadows of the forest for a reason you can't tell. Draw 3 dream shards. So that's quite handy. If you fail, the creature stares at you for a time you wouldn't know, and then leaves, taking from you everything you have without you realizing it. Discard all of your tech and common items. So it's possibly good, possibly bad, but that's quite an interesting one. Let's have a look at a City Intrigue. The Cursed Gift. A melancholic song resonates through the sleeping city. You lurk the streets, trying to figure out where it is coming from. The song guides you deeply inside an old tower in ruins. You walk through the once richly decorated spaces, now nothing more than home for mold and spiders. Few things are still of any use. Draw 2 dream shards and 2 common items. At the bottom of the stairs, a bedroom lays untouched. Complete silence has fallen now. The body of a young woman is lying in the bed. It looks like she is asleep, but you can't see her breathe. Suddenly a voice whispers something in your ear. If your hero is a cantor, test your fate too. The long lost testament is a very treacherous gift to be given. If you succeed, your awareness gets heightened. Draw 3 Kantiki. If you fail, your mind is unprepared for such a revelation and you get temporarily lost in the dream realm. You lose 1 turn. So that's basically missing a turn. If you're not a cantor, I guess nothing happens at that point. And you get 2 dream shards and 2 common items. So each of these adventures has a little bit of flavor text. It has a test perhaps to do, and then there's rewards and there's punishment for failure, so that's quite cool. And I dare say there's lots of these. So here's what's an ally. Her flavor text. Let's see. Let's read this up. While exploring the depths, Leah Hope's song, The Weaving Mistress. While exploring the depths of the forest, you stumble into a non-human construction. Judging from the graceful architecture, you deduct... Really? You are looking at an ancient Ivaran temple. However, the place is not abandoned. Inside the temple there is a woman busy praying. When you go to talk to her, she introduces herself as Leah Hopesong. Apparently she was waiting for you and gifts you with a small gem infused with the power of the place. Draw 1 dream shard. If your hero is a wildkin or an Ivaran, take Leah Hopesong as an ally. Special ability. Leah intones a powerful blessing that allows every hero in play to reroll any natural 6. A natural 6 always fails. Test your fate 3 at the end of each hero's phase, starting with the next one. If you fail, the Ivaran need Leah elsewhere and the blessing fades. Discard this card. So chances are she's not going to be with you for too long, because you've got a 50-50 chance of losing her at the end of every turn. And to be honest, knowing some of the people I play with, she'd be gone by the end of the first turn. But either way, that's quite cool. There's circumstances where things will help you, circumstances where nothing will happen, and circumstances likely where things will actually harm you. Just like random encounters in any role-playing Dungeons and Dragons type game. Okay, before I wrap up this video, I'm just going to go through the miniatures that you get with the actual core set. I'm not going to go through the Kickstarter exclusives because not everyone's going to be able to get them. Just a reminder that there will be a link in this video description to my main blog where I'll actually have photos of all the miniatures alongside their player cards so you can get a little bit better of an idea. I'll also quite possibly, if I have time, take photos of all the bosses as well, just to give you an idea, because actually that is the sort of stuff you're going to be looking for. So there's Max, we looked at him earlier, quite a cool little miniature, quite like that, looks quite powerful. Was it Melanie we had earlier? This is her miniature, she is not wanting to get into focus. There we are. And then we have 6 more. Looks like a short man with a beard and a top hat and a gun. So probably a gnome or a dwarf. This guy looks like a spellcaster. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be him here casting a spell, although, yep, that's a little bit clearer. He looks like a nobleman or a sort of like a what's the word I'm looking for? Scoundrel, that's the word I'm looking for. He looks like a bit of a scoundrel. You can tell by the way he's got a little bit of a goatee and he's got hair like that. And yeah, he's a scoundrel, I'm sure of it. We've got a lady fighter character here, by the looks of things, with a big sword. The female characters don't want to get into focus. Let's see, spin you around a little bit. Okay, that's a little bit better. Okay, not heavily, particularly heavily armored, so possibly more swashbuckler or skill type fighter. Dexterity fighter. We've got sort of like a. This almost looks like an orc spearman of some description. I'm not sure if orcs are a thing in this particular world. I haven't read all of the lore yet. This fella looks like a lion type barbarian. Either that or his race normally has a spare head dangling from one of their hands. There we go, that's it in focus. Looks a bit like a lion. And this looks like a sort of like a nature spellcaster or just a spellcaster really. Get in focus. There we go. Possibly what you might think of as a druid or something like that. That's quite cool. So that's been my look inside the box of Dreamwars with a little bit of card anatomy along the way to explain some of the bits and bobs of them. Like I said in the video, there's a link in the description back to my blog, which will have photographs of the various cards and miniatures so that you can get more of an idea of the specifics of what's in the box. I'm sure I'll be able to find time to do that for you. And there will be a companion video to this one, which will be how you actually play through a turn or two, something like that. So that's been Dreamwars, the steampunk sort of magic-y fantasy game. I've been John from itsmorethanjustgaming.com. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Check out the blog that I've mentioned anyway, because there's lots of cool gaming stuff there, and keep your eyes peeled for the next video on the Dreamwars series. Thanks for watching. Bye!